Welcome to a new test and teardown video. This time it's a leader LCR-745 LCR meter. And look at that. It's in a very, very beautiful state. I mean, okay, it's a little bit yellow maybe, but it looks really, really nice. So I'm quite happy about it. So far, so good. I think it's also called a CPU controlled LCR meter. And that's because the whole thing here is completely computer controlled. The block diagram of this unit actually shows how simple the circuit really is. So there's a DC injector. So here you can put in a DC bias. You can have its internal bias of 1.5 volts or nothing. And of course the AC injector is running at 120 Hertz or 1 kilohertz. So we got AC injection, and then it measures current and voltage and phase using AD converters. And then it uses software to calculate all the different things like inductance and capacity and all that kind of stuff, right? And resistance, obviously, right? And so we got 7 ranges for inductance. It is 200 microhenry to 200 henry. And for capacitance, it is 200 picofarad to 2000 microfarad. And resistance is 2 ohms to 20 mega ohms. So on the back, I don't have any data communication interfaces or anything like that. So it's completely manual. I think there's a plate here. Maybe you can get a data interface or something like that, connectivity. We got a lot of different voltage ranges, and it says here that it is configured for 220. So obviously this unit is probably 20 or 30 years old or something like that. I don't know exactly how old this model is. It's not written in the manuals or anything like that. So if you know how old this model is, could you please comment the age or more or less the range of sales? It could be interesting to know how old it is. Maybe I can find some date codes on the ICs inside. We'll see. But I want to reconfigure this for 230 volts. But first I want to open and inspect my nice new unit. Let's look inside this beautiful unit. I mean, everything here is just super, super nicely designed. I kind of expected that from a leader, but this is really, really nice. So what I think we got here is some serial registers and LED decoders, drivers, and all that kind of stuff. And then we got some connectors. I think up here there'll be connectors, and then there's another circuit board with all the LED displays, and then we got, see, power switches and data for all the readouts and all that kind of stuff. Really, really nicely made. And then the CPU card is also quite classic. We got some I/O expanders. That one will also be an I/O expander. There's probably some timers. This classic chip select logic. That one will be the CPU. Hitachi HD. What is that? 4682. Oh, and then a 1. Okay. I don't know exactly that one, but I think, yeah, because the EEPROMs and the data buses goes this way. I don't know. It could also be that one actually. 46802. It's actually, it must be one of these two, right? There's also a 4682. Okay, so that means these two will be port expanders and stuff, and that one will be the CPU. The CPU is in the socket. Oh, nice. There is a port expansion here called P2, and obviously you can put in another circuit board here with some connectivity and all that kind of stuff, and that is why you have this back plate here for extra connectors and such. So yeah, that is my idea with the CPU board. The main board here is, of course, traditional through-hole components, all of it. I've been through many of the parts here, and the newest is from 1984. See, all the date codes 84, on most of it. I think I found a few of them a little bit older. I think that will be the two AD converters. It's full of op-amps and analog switches and all that kind of stuff. That'll be the interface. We've got some protection diodes up there. This is, of course, all AC kind of stuff. So we got those capacitors to DC block. And here is the generator. And of course you can select different currents and it will automatically do this depending on the different ranges. So that was why we got those relays to pump up or down the drive power. We also got a few relays down here. Some op-amps, references. I think it was right here, offsets and stuff like that. Yeah, quite nice layout from 1984. Or this one was definitely manufactured in 1984. I still don't know exactly the period this unit was manufactured in. So if anybody knows, it could be interesting to know how many years the span of production. Because of course a product like this, as you can see here, it takes quite a lot of man hours to design. So obviously you want to run this quite a lot of years so you get your development costs back again. I can't help thinking about if you were to design a product like this today. I mean, all this is just one little STM32 controller, right? And all this analog stuff, it's mainly just an AC source, two different frequencies, 7 different current levels. Then we got some amplification and some AD converters, and then can measure in perfect phase and all that, phase and level, to determine all the different values, and the rest is just software. So I mean, this can of course be a tiny little board today. The power supply, however, is just a normal linear power supply. Nothing fancy smancy about that. That is definitely how you would do this also today. Oh yeah, this is the mains voltage selector. And it's also explained in the manual. The one little detail that I find a little bit annoying, that is if you look at the numbers here on the transformer, see, 1, 2, 3, and again 1, 2, 3. I mean, why not call it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Because now what is what? But it turns out that it's in the manual explained between 1 and 2 there's a 100 volt winding, and here's a 20 volt winding, right? And it's the same over here. So it really doesn't matter what is what. But this one is actually connected, not exactly as drawn for 220, but I want to make this 240, so I need to move this brown wire up to number 3, and then it should be configured for 240. Huh. Nice. Super nice the way this is made with a nice stiff piece of aluminium, not this long nasty plastic stuff. No. Good, beautiful aluminium case. yeah, I kind of like it. And the heatsink here is also nice and beautiful. Definitely quite nice. I found, yeah, 2 of these units on eBay. I think it was $300 and even $600 for a used one today. Oh my. If they ever sell it, but this is at least what they dream this could be worth. So let's try and do the first power on. And like that. And we will of course give it 230. And then what kind of luck is that? It really works. So this is a 101 picofarad capacitor. I just measured this at 1 kilohertz on my other unit. Hey, how about we just show this? Did I really tighten it that much? So let's try and connect it to that one here. And leave it on the table. And then let's go over here and see 101. Depending on how I hold the wires. But 101. And see, this is also 1 kilohertz. So far, so good. Also, I'm quite happy about the zeroing here, right? So 0.1 picofarad when nothing is connected. Let's see if I screw this a little bit more tight and don't touch anything. 0.1. That is absolutely great. So here's a 282 microfarad. I just tested on my other, my GH2830, and here it measures 283. So there's only 1 digit here. So far, so good. What else can we do here? Yes, I can of course measure the internal resistance at, see, it goes in ohm, right? So this is of course at 1 kilohertz, okay? So 0.116, try and remember this. And here we go, the same capacitor on my GH2830. Now it is 283 and 0.11, very much 116, right? So let's also take a little inductor. This is a, this should be 1 milli, but it is of course at 1 kilohertz, 910, and then 9.2 ohms in series, right? So when you're testing more stuff, it's easier if you use some little leads like this. Of course, it's better to have 2 wires split here to both of them. This way you zero out inductance and capacitance and stuff like that here. And then you can also make a guard from this one and shield everything here, so it's really nice and fine. So here is almost, it's only a little bit off, so this is quite close, right? And let's see, 9.4 ohms in series, right? So I mean, this is pretty close. Show you something really interesting, by the way. So here's a little ceramic capacitor. I don't know if that's easy to see, but it's a 22 size or something like that, so it's quite big. But this is a 100 volt 10 microfarad capacitor, and it measures a little bit under. So what we want to play around with here is external DC biasing, because this is what this unit can do. And it's super interesting to evaluate your capacitors at the voltage you want to use them at. Obviously, this instrument only handles 30 volts. So there's a problem because this is a 100 volt capacitor. And what if I want to use it in a circuit with 100 volts? So of course for this I need another instrument or to do something more tricky. But let's just try and see what happens at the first 30 volts, right? So if I turn on external, is probably if I click this in, right? So now I have external DC bias, right? Now I turn on, let me do this real simple. Fine tune like that, la 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 la. Then we go 10 volts, like that. So 10 volts, and then nothing big happened, right? So let's try 20. See now, the capacitance is dropping. Let's try the 30 volts. And then it's 6. So now I can also reveal to you, I've of course tried this capacitor with much higher voltage, and it just goes down and down and down. And this is what happens because of the different ways these capacitors are made, and it's also behaving differently from brand to brand and from topology and ceramics and whatever they are using. So this is what you need to look up and investigate when you're designing in with the ceramic capacitors. There's a switch right here on the back where you can switch on and off the QD display. So on all my previous tests it was turned off. So now I just enable that, and now you can see the Q factor of a inductor like this. So this is a 100 microhenry. You can also see the different parameters here. So this is the series resistance. You can go in serial mode. That is exactly what it chooses when you go to auto. All right. And here is the same inductor, also at 1 kilohertz. So I think it's pretty close. So what you can do is when you want to measure really small values, and then you add some test cables like this. You can imagine if it would have been a longer cable. See, it will add a lot of picofarads. But what if you want to measure a small little picofarad capacitor, or if it's maybe too small to be screwed in here or something like that, then you can use the offset feature to 0. Oops, see? Then it will 0 to whatever you have and call it your new reference. And now you can measure from that. So it's actually nice. Or what if you're having a circuit where you have something already in the circuit and then you add something else and want a total value, or you want to add something, I don't know what. It's really a nice feature to have this. Anyway, I think that was more or less all I wanted to show you about this fantastic old leader LCR meter from 1984. So I hope to see you soon again. Bye bye.